learned last week that you base your friendships on God, and you'll have lifelong friendships. You know, you guys, when you look at a girl, what do you see? Do you see a girl or do you see a person? Girls, when you look at a guy, what do you see? Do you see a guy or do you see a person? I mean, this is something, of course, we're different and we can appreciate and enjoy, looking around. And have you ever been to the airport and just watch people? Just sit there and just, oh, wow, golly, that guy, oh, cool. And, there isn't anything wrong with that. God's made us all different and unique. But we have got to get to the place where we can make friends with anybody and everybody, okay? And stop seeing guy, girl, black, white, this and that, We've got to know that we can make friends out of anybody. And so tonight we're talking about getting friends. All right, open your Bible, will you? Proverbs chapter 3. If you didn't bring one, just listen or share with somebody next to you. Proverbs chapter 3. We're talking about getting friends, okay? Now we're going to split this up into two parts. First, we're going to talk about what you need to be to get new friends. How many of you could use some new friends? Okay. Well, the person you are has a whole lot to do with your friends. How many of you are tired of your friendships just exploding in your face and becoming like horrible situations and people not liking you anymore? And all right, we're going to try and dispel some of that here tonight by looking at some of the things you need to be in order to get friends. And then we're going to look at 5 things that you need to do to get friends. All right, you ready to get some friends? Yeah, imagine your friend sitting here next to you tonight, just enjoying God and having a good time and hitting on each other or whatever. Anyways, all right, let me start with this. Friend in the Greek is philos, which means a loved one, beloved, or affectionate friend. The verb of the same word is phileo. You ever heard of that? Phileo, not phileo fish. Phileo is a Greek word for love, and this is the verb part, the action part of it, which means it describes a love of emotion and friendship, and it gives this noun form of phileo, which is philos or philos, a congeniality or a niceness to it. It's not just a thing, okay? There's a relationship involved here. And friends aren't just a thing. You have friends? Yeah, I got friends. You got lots of friends? Yeah, I got lots of friends. Well, no. Jesus, and we talked about this last week about best friends. Jesus said, greater love has no man than this, that he lay down his life for a friend. He didn't say for your parents. He didn't say for your youth pastor. He said for a friend. So you can tell that Jesus puts a whole lot more stock in friendship than maybe a lot of people do in our society. Because in our society, friends come and go, and you don't even think anything about it. But when two people come into covenant friendship with each other, I mean, it's like for the rest of our lives, we're going to be friends. And I think that's more and more what God wants us to do. If we had more of that, the church would be a whole lot more solid than it is right now. Church has been a mess for the last bunch of years. And it's because people don't know how to deal with other people. They freak out. So let's start looking at some of this word here. You ready? We're in Proverbs chapter 3. We're going to read verse 3 and 4. And it says this, let not mercy and truth forsake you. Bind them about your neck. That sounds serious, doesn't it? Write them on the table of your heart, and so you will find favor and high esteem in the sight of God and man. How many of you want some favor with man? Wouldn't it be cool? You walk into a store and they go, you're our 5,000th customer. Here's a new car. Don't you think that'd be favor? Yeah, or people come on and they just look at you and you go, you know what? I want to give you something. That's favor with God and man. God promised that we would have favor with Him and with other people. In other words, people are going to favor us. They're going to like us if we become 2 things. Now, the first thing is, this is number 1, we're going to do 5 things you need to be, and then 5 things you need to do. The first thing is you need to be merciful. Merciful. Okay? You remember the story in the book of John chapter 8. Jesus is walking along, he's ministering, and they bring him a woman. They throw her at Jesus' feet. They say, Jesus, here is a woman caught in the very act of adultery. Now, this is the strangest thing I've ever heard of in my life, okay? Because here's a woman who is committing adultery all by herself. I'm sorry, that's just really impossible, okay? So, I mean, this is so stupid. The Pharisees, they're thinking they're going to pull this off. Here's a woman caught in the very act of adultery. You know? It's like, who caught her? Probably the guy who was, anyway. You know, says, aha, I caught you. It's like, what about you? Anyway, they throw her down at Jesus' feet. So what should we do? And Jesus bends down and starts writing in the dirt. We don't know what he wrote. Have no idea. Could have been writing all kinds of stuff. Phone numbers. I don't know. But he's down there writing in the dirt. They say, the law says that we should stone her. What do you say? They're trying to trap him. And he says, okay, stone her. Go ahead. He says, but the first person who throws a stone, let it be the one among you that has no sin. From the oldest to the youngest, they all laughed. Why? Because they realized that was none of them. You know? None of them had the right to throw a stone. And Jesus says to this woman, I mean, you can imagine the horror and you can imagine her life before that incident. It was probably just horrible. I mean, they treated women horribly back then. Horribly. If you wanted to divorce your wife, you just leave her a note saying, get out. I mean, that's how they divorced them. Write them a letter of divorcement. They just leave them a note and say, go away. You know? You can imagine what this woman had been through just trying to survive. And so there she is. Jesus looks past all of the, guilt, all of the problems, all of the everything, and sees a person. And he says to this person, this human being that needs love so badly, he says, where are your accusers? Everyone had left. And it's just, I guess the disciples were still there, and there's Jesus, and here's this lady. He said, where are your accusers? Are there not any to accuse you anymore? She looked up. She looked around. She goes, no, none. Jesus looked at her face, and he said, neither do I accuse you. Go and sin no more. Cool. What is that? Mercy. That's how we ought to be. We've got to stop judging each other. We've got to stop coming down on everything. We've got to be merciful. Why? Because all of these people are victims of the problems and the situations the devil's trying to bring in their life. Okay? The devil's the one trying to knock them down. So you become a merciful person. And Jesus, he became friends with, publicans and sinners and stuff. We'll look at that in a minute. But why did people want to hang around with him? Because he accepted them. He was merciful. He loved them. Nobody else wanted to have anything to do with a bunch of these people except Jesus did. When you become a merciful person and don't judge anybody, people are going to want to hang around with you. They're going to want to be your friend. Why? Because you accept them. Now, in this story of the woman in the act of adultery, Jesus didn't accept her sin, but he accepted her. You see the difference? I mean, we aren't supposed to go around, oh, you're homosexual, oh, that's sweet. That's just, oh, I just accept you just the way you are, sweetie. That's not what it's talking about. Jesus said, go and sin no more. He said, go and sin no more. Well, after that episode, I'm sure she'd think about it twice, before she ever got into a situation again. And she would remember the mercy of God. Cool. So, number one thing you got to become is merciful. Number two thing is truthful. He said, bind mercy and truth around your neck. Write it on the table of your heart. Become a person of your word. That when you tell somebody something, you tell somebody you're going to be there on time, you do everything you can to be there on time. You tell somebody you're going to do something for them, you do everything you can to do that for them and become a person of your word. Why? God is a person of his word. And when they realize that and you have a track record of keeping your word, they're going to be able to trust you. Why? Because you're a solid person. You've got to have that truth. There's another story in John chapter 4, the woman at the well. Jesus goes and he sits down. The disciples go into town to get some food. And a woman comes along. It's the middle of the day. Nobody comes out to the well in the middle of the day. I mean, that's over there in the desert areas of the Middle East. It's hot out there. The only people that come out in the middle of the day are social misfits that don't want to be around everybody else because they're tired of being condemned and accused. So he's sitting there, and this lady comes out, and she's going to draw some water, and he says, hey, give me a drink. And she goes, did you come here to get a drink? You don't even have anything to draw water with. And he goes, well, if you knew who I was, you'd ask living water, and I'd give it to you, never thirst again. She says, well, give me some of that. He says, okay, go get your husband. She says, well, I don't have a husband. He goes, you're right. You've had 5. The one you're living with now isn't your husband. Now, do you think Jesus was just trying to be nice? No, he was telling the truth. But see, when you tell the truth in love, like you're at school and your friend, just stoned out of his brain. I mean, you could go in there, just say no, just say no, just say. Is that going to help? Is that going to make them be closer to you as a friend? No. But you go up to them and you go, you know what? If you died, I'd go to your funeral. But I'd much rather have you alive and be my friend. And they go, wow, what is that? Truth? Jesus said, you'll know, if you abide in my word, you'll be my disciples. You'll know the truth will make you free. He speaks the truth to this woman at the well. He says, you've had 5 husbands, and one you're living with is not your own. She says, sir, I perceive you're a prophet. Duh. Hello? And then she asks him some real religious question, and he gives her, a good answer. And she's like, well, when the Messiah comes, he'll tell us everything. He says, bingo. I'm him. She runs into town, first evangelist in the Bible. She brings the whole town to Jesus. I mean, the whole town. She says, come hear this guy. He told me everything I've ever done. See? The truth always makes people free. Be a person of truth. Be a person of your word. If you're like that, you'll be somebody that people want to be friends with. But if you go, you're ugly, just kidding. You're smart, just kidding. You're just kidding, just kidding. If you, psych, if you act like that all the time, you're not a person of your word. They can't trust anything you say. Why? Because you never say anything solid and truthful. We've got to change ourselves in that area. Okay, the next thing in Proverbs 19. Flip over there. Proverbs 19. And I'm going to read verse 6. This is an interesting verse. Could go 2 different ways. It says this, many entreat the favor of the nobility, and every man is a friend to one who gives gifts. In other words, everyone wants to be a friend of the king, or of the prince, or of the princess, or, everybody wants to be their friend. And a person with a lot of money, everybody wants to be their friend. But there's another angle to this that I was seeing in studying this. Everyone wants to be a friend to him that gives gifts. Well, check this out. Here's the third thing you need to be in order for friends to be attracted to you is a giver. A giver. I mean, if you're selfish and you always want to have your way and you always want to do your thing, you always want to, you just absorb things. You ever hang around with a mooch? Somebody who's a mooch? Don't you get tired of that after a while? Why? They suck the air out of the room. Just like, doesn't matter where they're going or what they're doing. It's like, you always feel obligated. And you know what? If you're like that, people won't want to be around you. But man, if you're a giver, you're just always giving. You just always have this outflow because you're so full of God. You can't help it, man. It just comes out of you, and it just blesses people. Someone goes, man, I forgot my lunch money. You go, here, I'll help you. Or they go, oh man, what am I going to do? And you're there to help. You're there to support. You say, well, I don't know. And you help them figure it out. Because you're always giving. You've always got this flow. That's going to attract people to you. It's going to make you awesome. Now, Jesus was like this wherever he went. 5,000 people are sitting there. It's 5,000 men besides the women and children. They're like, almost 20,000 people there. And the disciples go, what do we do? What do we do? They're going to pass out if we stay out here much longer. They're out in the middle of nowhere. There were no restaurants, you know. Jesus said, give them something to eat. Because all we got is this kid's lunch. Jesus said, well, bring it to me. And when Jesus touched it, then it just grew. Isn't that cool? You know, Jesus is inside of you. You got Jesus inside of you. When you touch stuff, it can just grow. We're at Redeeming Love last week at a service, and it was just interesting. The pastor's wife was talking about when they were in Africa, and they had this big dog that was eating them out of house and home. And they finally got to a place where they said, okay, this is it. And they laid hands on the bag of dog food. They said, in the name of Jesus, this dog food's going to multiply. And they went like months off of this one bag of dog food. I mean, it used to be that this dog would eat the whole bag in a week. They went months off of this one bag of dog food. Cyndy said, I'd have got rid of the dog, you know. You know, over in Africa, they eat all kinds of things too. But anyway, interesting. Tastes like chicken. Okay. Be a giver. Be a giver. Be a person who you've always got this outflow. You've always got encouragement to give. You've always got blessings to give. You say, what if I run out? Go to God. Go to Jesus. He's got more. Okay. Number 4, turn over to Proverbs 22. Proverbs 22. I want to read verse 11. It says this, he who loves purity of heart and has grace on his lips, the king will be his friend. You know, you can get yourself to a point to where important people want to be your friend. People who, you know, are in charge of stuff. Well, that's pretty cool. Especially at your job. You know, John works over at Living Vine. Can you imagine them coming up to you and saying, you know what? We want you to be a manager. You know, the president of the company coming in, so I've heard about you, and I want you to be, well, what? How do you get to that point? Well, he tells you here. There's 2 things. This is number 4 and number 5. Number 4 is, be pure in heart. Don't have a whole bunch of ulterior motives. You know, I mean, if you went in there and said, I want this job because I want lots of money and lots of opportunities to spread, you know, my space coaster across the face of the planet. You know? But that's not your motive. You know, your motive is to go in there and be a blessing. Everybody who comes in the door, you want to be a blessing to them. And that comes out of a pure heart. See? I mean, if we walk around with motives all the time, what that means is that you're thinking about yourself all the time. And you're a selfish person. But being a selfish person is not a way to get a friend. Being pure in heart, having pure motives. I'm not trying to get you to be my friend, you know, so that you can, you know, feed into my life all the encouragement that I need. No, I want to be a blessing to you. I don't have any motivation like that. You know, I love you guys. You know I love you? Because I want to. I don't have to. I want to. I like having you around. When you're not here, it's, you know, you're not here, and I'm like, gosh, they're not here. Bummer. Why? Because I love you, because I want to. See? You got to have pure motives if you want to have friends. And then number 5, he says this, he who loves purity of heart, which is number 4, and has grace on his lips, the king will be his friend. What does that mean? Does that mean go around saying grace all the time? Lord bless his food. Lord, hi, bless his food. Hi. God bless his food. Hi. How you doing? God bless his. No, that's not what grace means. I like Charles Capp's definition of grace. His definition of grace is God's, this is cool, you ought to listen to this, God's willingness to use his ability on your behalf. How many of you believe God can do anything? How many of you believe God will do anything? See, now there's a difference between the two. How many of you believe God will do anything for you? See? A lot of times you can get stuff stuck in the middle of that. Yeah, God's powerful, man. He can do awesome things. He can do anything. You believe God wants to give you a car? Oh, I don't know. I haven't been real good. You get all this stuff in between it. But see, grace is just stepping in to the ability of God so that you're not living your life according to your own ability. I had a young man come up to me one time, this is a number of years ago. He goes, he was a basketball player. He said, Spencer, I want you to pray for me. I said, what do you need? He said, I want to grow 2 inches, and I want to be able to stuff the basketball by, within a short period of time for this season. I said, you believe God can do that? He goes, yes. And he was like, I mean, and it wasn't just, I want to be cool, I want everyone to look at me. He had a goal. I mean, this was in his heart. And it wasn't just to be, just to outshine everybody else. He had this goal in his heart, and he wanted to do it. And I said, now, okay, I got to tell you this before I pray for you. You're going to have to give glory to God every chance you get when people ask you about this. He said, I'm going to do it. So I laid hands on him, and within like a month, he grew 2 inches. And within like 6 weeks, he was stuffing the basketball. Now, that wasn't him. You got to realize that, okay? You can't make yourself grow 2 inches. Well, I suppose you could if you hung yourself on weights and, tried to stretch it out a little bit. I don't know. But, see, if we trust in God's ability to do something in our lives, that makes a lot of difference. And it says if you'll do that, kings will want to be your friend. How about Daniel? Here's a teenager. Everyone say teenager. You got any teenagers in here? Okay. So, you got this teenager. He's taken away from all of his support systems. He's taken away from his parents. He's taken away from his priests. He's taken away from his homeland. And he's stuck in the most ungodly nation on the planet, Babylon. Where everything happens. I mean, sin is normal in Babylon. Okay? So they stick him in this thing, and he's a good-looking young man. So they say, okay, we're going to groom you to serve before the king. Here, you drink some beer and have some cake. We're going to groom you to stand before the king. And he says, no. Well, in Babylon, you don't say no to the king, or, off with your head. I mean, this guy's nuts. Nebuchadnezzar, he's just a spaz. I mean, if he gets mad at you, forget it. It's over. So Daniel goes, no. And the guard goes, wait, what did you say? You say no. What did you say? He goes, I'm not going to defile myself. But see, he had the wisdom to not just stand there and go, no, not going to do it. He said, look, okay, I'll tell you what. Put us to the test. 10 days. And in 10 days, if we don't look stronger and healthier than all the rest of these guys, then we'll go on the king's diet. But until then, we're going to, check this out. This kid, he goes, we're going to eat vegetables and drink water. I mean, you got to be committed, all right? He said, we're not going to defile ourselves with all this garbage. We're going to eat vegetables, we're going to drink water, and in 10 days they were healthier and they were stronger. So they said, okay, we'll just feed you this stuff, that's fine. Favor. He was pure in heart. Didn't defile himself. Okay? And then the king has a dream and he's freaking out. And he's going to kill all the magicians and the astrologers and the 1-800 psychic hotline, and he's going to just murder all of them because they can't tell him his dream and the interpretation. And Daniel comes to the rescue, tells the guard, give me one night. The guard tells the king says, okay. It's a miracle. Why did the king say okay? Because God gave Daniel faith. So the next day, Daniel and his friends are fasting, they're praying, and Daniel has a dream. God gives him the answer, and he goes in before the king, and he has grace on his lips. He has the answer. He's got God's ability on the inside of him to speak. And you have the same thing if you would exercise it. There's people in your school, there's people on your job that are hurting and don't have the answer. And you can go to the Lord and say, God, give me something to say to this person. And God will give you the word to say, and you'll have grace on your lips, and people want to be your friend. I mean, important people. This was a teenager. There wasn't any reason for the king to listen to him, except he had the ability of God on his lips. Okay, so there's 5 things that you need to be: merciful, truthful, be a giver, be pure in heart, and have grace in your words. Have graceful words in your mouth. 5 things you need to be. You be those things, and people want to be your friend. Okay? People want to be around you. Now, I'm going to real quickly give you 5 things to do, and I'm going to start as a basis for all 5 of these. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, it says, God has not given you the spirit of fear, and another translation says, the spirit of timidity. How many of you consider yourself shy? How many of you have a hard time talking to other people sometimes? Okay? All right, well, I'm going to give you some cues, some things that are going to help you to be able to step in to this awesome world that God's put in front of us, to reach out to people and be a blessing to them just like Jesus was. God has not given you timidity. So if God hadn't given it to you, where do you think it came from? The lies of the devil, yeah. The devil's a liar. And he comes and he says, oh, and he provides all the Technicolor and everything to it. Brad, I am so proud of you, man. You just blow my mind. That first morning you were out there, he got out there 20 minutes till 7 to do his campus church. He's in the parking lot praying his guts out, waiting for someone to come. I showed up at 7. No one else was there yet. And he was just like, I wonder where everybody is. I said, hey, in 10 minutes, there's going to be more people here. And within 10, 15 minutes, there were like 7 of us. And we got together and we had an awesome time. And man, that just blessed me that you were out there and it's like, yeah, I'm going to do this no matter what. And this is going to happen. I know you were nervous, but you did an awesome job, And being nervous isn't bad, but to think, hey, I can't do it, that's wrong. Because God's inside of you and you can do it. God hadn't given you timidity. What has He given you? Power, love, and a sound mind. Everyone say power. Now say love and a sound mind. That's what God's given you, so we need to utilize that. Here's some ways you can utilize that. Number 1, give people a reason to talk to you. Wow, look at your nails. Show the audience your nails. Into the camera. And it's like, everywhere she goes, people say something to her about her nails. It gives people a reason to say something to her. Now, I do this all the time. I am always looking for a reason to talk to somebody. Okay, if you got cool shoes on, I'm going to come up to you and talk to you about your cool shoes. If you're riding a motorcycle, I'm going to come up to you and say, hey, nice bike. How long have you had it? I'm always looking for reasons to talk to somebody. And I'm going to find something. And so if you become a person, if you're out there and you're wearing your Christian t-shirt, it gives people a reason to come up and talk to you about Christian stuff. You wear your Nirvana t-shirt, they're going to come talk to you about, guess what? I don't know, whatever. But that's number 1, give people a reason to talk to you. Number 2, look people in the eyes. Everyone turn around and look at somebody in the eyeballs right now. Look at somebody in the eyes. Look at them in the eyes. You know what? You can't hardly do that without smiling. Isn't that amazing? Everybody in here is smiling now. You can't hardly look at anybody without smiling. Albert, look at me. He smiled. Isn't that wild? Now, you notice this at school or at work or walking down the street. Everyone avoids everyone else's eyes. Now, the coolest place to just really, blow the roof off is elevators. Because nobody looks at anybody in elevators. You ever notice that? Yeah, that's exactly what they do. They look at the numbers. They're like, are we going to skip a floor? Are we going to skip a floor? It's ridiculous. But if you would look people in the eyes, you know what that says? I have nothing to hide. I'm secure. I have nothing to hide. And people are looking for someone who's secure because the whole world is insecure. So if you look people in the eyes, when you say hi to them, hi, Amy. Hi. How you doing? And you look them in the eyes. If you do this instead, you go, hi. How you doing? Hey, how's it going? And you're trying to talk to someone and you just keep doing that. You know what that says? I'm not secure in myself. I mean, you don't have to stare. Like, how you doing? But look people in the eyes. All right, that's number 2. All right, number 3. Number 3 is this. Smile. Everyone smile. Smile. Smiling helps. It really helps. Even on the phone. It does. Lead sales today, because they smiled so much, they can hear it on the phone, they can feel it. When you talk through a smile, hey, how you doing? I mean, you don't have to be like a game show host or nothing, I mean, be sincere. Guy smiling. What have you been watching in the morning at 8? Smile. It spreads the happiness around. Yeah. All right, that's number 3, smile. Number 4, compliment others. Make them feel good. Give people compliments. Give people compliments. Just go up and say, wow, I like your hair. I mean, I do that to people who have weird hair. I do. I find people with weird hair, and I go up to them and I say, hey, I like your hair. The old lady at church with the purple hair, go up to her and say, nice color. I love purple. Purple's nice. Yeah, I do. Remember those two guys when we were in Hollywood? At the back of the room, we're doing a concert Jesse was a bass player, keyboard player in our band. This was a long time ago. This is 1985. And you were 4 years old, Joe? It's amazing, isn't it? How much can happen. We're doing a concert. There's these two guys in the back. One of them is a Korean-looking guy, round head, mohawk about a foot long. I mean, like orange tips. Muscles, mohawk, huge. I mean, like big. Mohawk. You look like Sonic the Hedgehog. Big mohawk. And his friend was standing next to him, big heavy metal hair, curly, and his clothes looked like he had Dobermans for pets. He totally had the shredded look. And, it's just amazing. As soon as the concert was over, I headed straight for these guys. I walked back to them. Hey, how's it going? It's pretty good. And I started talking to them, and they started talking Christian to me. And I thought these guys were like totally insane. These guys were like in it. They said, well, what do you think about the controversy surrounding the church and the different things? I'm like, huh? It just freaked me out. But anyways, you never know. You got to just smile. Smile at people. Smile at sinners. Find a sinner and smile at them. Hi. Be careful which ones you smile at. You don't want to buy anything. Anyway. Number 5. And this is the last one. We'll wrap it up with this. Okay? This is so important. Ask questions about them. Don't go up to a person ready to tell them all about you. Go up to a person ready to learn about them. Okay? Make them feel important. Make them feel that they're worth something. They might have this life that's not worth anything to them because they've never had anyone interested enough to ask them. But when you go up to a person and they're brand new, try this at school tomorrow, at work. Find somebody that doesn't have anybody. Go up to them and smile at them and look them in the eyes and ask them something about themselves. And people love to talk about themselves. Let them. You become a good listener, you'll get a whole lot of friends. Bam, just like that. Why? People love to talk about themselves. And you just get interested. And if you'll do that, you know what? Your friends affect you. They affect the way you think. As a result of them affecting the way that you think, it affects your actions, it affects your attitudes, and it affects your accomplishments in life. Okay? Have you ever tried to stuff something into a hose that's on? You can't do it. You can't do it. Try it sometime. Go in the backyard and try to stuff a cigarette into a hose that's on. You can't do it. Try to stick some cocaine into a hose that's on. It won't go in. Try to stick a dirty picture into the hose that's on. You say, where are you going with this? This hose that's on has a continual outflow. If you are a person who has a continual outflow, then you're not going to be influenced negatively by other people. And you know what? You attract what you are.
Spencer and Cyndy Nordyke, reaching nations and generations. For more information, visit NordikeMinistries.com.